does design have a sort of higher purpose here that you need to think about? Can you really fold that into what you're doing, or are you just happy to have the business and are willing to do what it takes to keep your people employed?
I'll throw in, it's complicated because consumer behavior is so hypocritical. And we have this convenience issue that's being rewarded along with, you know, the chatter about sustainability.
Right.
Clearly we have a role in this, that we impact future generations through the choices we make. It's not as simple as reduce source materials and all is great. Consumers continue to reward over packaging.
But I think,
and Walmart, that's why I applaud what they've done.
I was going to
when
say,
they take the lead and reframe
Walmart?
it so that everybody plays by the same rules, that's a brilliant move.
but I think that all designers, Paul and I were just talking about this, the point of being a designer is to make the world a better place. I mean, that's the whole point, and obviously ecology is a big and important part of that. And I think that my goal is to basically turn spinach into candy so that people eat what they want, but it's good for them. I don't see why that's so. I can see how it's difficult, but you can do it incrementally.
Yeah.
A way we could step beyond materials and talk about behavior too, as
part of
material
ecology,
design.
right?
Yeah, I think that's what you're suggesting.
A big part of it.
Yeah, which is if we can influence behavior, then we can get beyond how much post-consumer is in the packaging or whatever.
If the conversation about what we do as designers is that you say that the goal of design is to raise the expectation of what the design can be, that means that everybody's doing it at the same time. It's an incremental process. Over a period of time, everything can be better. It's not as easy as going out and founding Muji and making everything terrific all at once and then have a specific socioeconomic group adapt to it. I mean, I think that the design community as a whole is dividing themselves between what they see as good work and this is important for society, and then I do my bad work over here. And I just think that that's like the wrong head.
Tom's analogy this morning, which I thought was really interesting, you may have missed that, I'm not sure. But he talked about clients and designers, and his group were talking about the analogy with a car, right? And he said that the client is driving the car, and the designer's not even in the car, the designer is the car. Right, so if that's even close to reality, that tells you the amount of influence as consultants we can have. It's realistically, it's quite limited. I mean, we might, and when there's, and I always get very skeptical of designers that preach something much different, because it's invariably they're mugging for the press, in my opinion. Right, they're self-aggrandizing their position in the ecosystem.
So they're taking notes and putting it on the blog, right?
So I think in reality, you know, as a group of consultants, which I think we all are, our influence is somewhat limited in respect to changing that on a macro level, much less influential than a Walmart can be, for example. So, I mean, I think that's I don't want to, it's not a cop-out, it's just the truth. From my perspective, that's the truth. You know, if we want to change this system, what's the most effective way of getting there? Is it a million people making an incremental change, or is it a top-down mandated change? And I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
I think you have to have both.
Yeah.
And I think Johnson & Johnson's a good example of that. Chris Hacker doing amazing design stuff in there, but he also tells the story about how he had got called in by his boss, the CEO or whatever, and said that, and he told him that Walmart was going to not sell any of their products anymore unless they fixed them. And so it was like, you know, you had Chris and Walmart, and bingo, you had like a big change.
Yeah.
But you couldn't. It wouldn't have been any good without Chris, or wouldn't. It would have taken longer without Walmart. So.
Can we just segue here for 1 second into sort of one level up, and that is, do you feel any dissonance as designers in creating more stuff in the world?
Yeah, and it's a conversation designers don't choose to engage in. That we're part of consumerism. That we're happy to point out categories we don't work in, but It's our problem, and we're not addressing it. The banality of consumer culture and design are hand in glove.
Well, back to our economist from this morning about the American consumer, who immediately, when they have a few more bucks in their pocket, are rushing back to the
Right.
mall.
Right.
Well, first of all, I hate the word consumer. I think of designing stuff for the user who happens, maybe they bought it, maybe they got it somewhere else, but the idea of like only designing it so someone will buy it is like,
Keeps
You know.
purpose at the core.
I hate that idea.
I think that it really depends on how you want to throw the lens at it. The idea, mercantilism, markets, shopping is part of human behavior, and it's
Right.
inherently peaceable. It's certainly much
Right.
better than war.
Right.
I like healthy economies.
Right.
I like people employed. I would much rather see people going to a shopping mall than fighting in Iraq. I think that the notion of waste, overconsumption, things that are really terrible is different from the sort of simple idea of somebody coming up with a better mousetrap or trying to build something better. And I think that you have to have the appropriate dialogue. I think we all feel terrible that we can't make terrific cars in the United States. I think we would, if we were having conversations about healthy consumerism and what that made maybe 50 years ago, we could have saved the car industry. But that doesn't mean that buying cars is inherently bad. I think the dialogue is just all wrong. It's not that we should not be aware, it's how we're aware. Because I think the role of designers is as Tucker said, is to improve society.